The Aztecs were one of the different Mesoamerican cultures that existed during the late post-classic period. They formed the Aztec Empire, which arose in 1325 and fell in 1521. The fall of the empire was due to the Spanish colonization led by Hernán Cortés. Let's see now the 26 curiosities about the Aztecs. Number 1. The Aztecs never called themselves like Aztecs. This term was established by the Westerners, probably based on the original place of the Aztecs, Aztlán, an island placed in the north of present-day Mexico. They called themselves Mexica, which according to some authors, it could mean sons of the moon. 2. The specific site where Aztlán was located has not been discovered yet. In fact, some historians even consider the possibility that Aztlán was only a mythological place, and that actually it never existed at all. 3. The Aztecs left Aztlán by divine order, and made a pilgrimage for years, until they finally settled on the swampy desert island in the Lake Texcoco. According to the myth, the Aztecs chose such a site because of a divine sign. They saw a golden eagle perching on a cactus which grew from a rock. There is a debate about whether such an eagle was devouring a snake or another bird. In any case, the city which would be built in that place, it would be called Tenochtitlan, where Mexico City is located nowadays. 4. The Mexican flag has the Aztec myth of the Tenochtitlan creation represented in the center. 5. The Aztec Empire was not created solely from the Mexica. It arose from a military coalition called the Triple Alliance, formed by the Mexica of Tenochtitlan, the Alcojua of Texcoco, and Tlacopan. 6. The Aztecs had a compulsory education system. However, the children went to a different school depending on the social class they belonged. Moreover, there was a single-sex school system. 7. Those Aztec children who showed bad behavior were punished very harshly. They had different types of punishments, such as wiping them until they had severe wounds in the skin, pricking them with thorns, or hanging them from their feet over pots full of boiling jalapenos. 8. The Aztecs created a system to live and cultivate on water, thus creating floating cities. 9. Unlike their European contemporaries, hygiene was very important to the Aztecs. They kept their streets free of dirt and debris. They used a kind of handmade soap. They had systems to keep the water clean. They cleaned their teeth, and they even bathed almost on a daily basis. 10. The Aztecs had two calendars, one of 365 days and another one of 260. The one of 365 days, despite having the same days as the calendar that we currently use, it had a different day distribution. Each year had 18 months of 20 days, plus 5 useless days. The other calendar had a mystical, spiritual function. 11. The Aztec mythology had a multitude of gods. They also believed in the existence of 13 paradises and 9 different hells. 12. The Aztecs had the habit of burying their ancestors under and around their houses. Furthermore, sometimes dogs were also buried with them. 13. In that society there was slavery, but it was very different from the European. The Aztecan slaves had a lot of freedom, and they could have their own possessions and even other slaves. They could also buy their freedom in exchange for a price. 14. Related to this particular system of slavery, we should add that in the Aztec society, the poor used to sell their children or even themselves as slaves. 15. The cacao was very appreciated by this civilization, and sometimes they used it like currency because of its great value. 16. The poorest Aztecs used to make kind of corn envelopes called tamales, which they filled with different animals: frogs, snails, insect eggs, ants, boiled grasshoppers, slugs, lizards, etc., etc. 17. The Aztec soldiers worked without salary, but the one who captured 4 or more enemies was promoted to noble. 18. The Aztecs had 2 important military units, the Jaguar warriors and the Eagle warriors. These formed the elite of the Aztec army, and it is estimated that only these soldiers caused almost 80% of the Spanish casualties. 19. In the Aztec society there were human sacrifices, and it is estimated that 20,000 people were sacrificed each year in the Aztec Empire. With these sacrifices, the Aztecs believed that they contributed to the balance of the world and that they assured the presence of the sun in the sky. In 1487, 8,400 people were sacrificed in 4 days due to the festival of the reconsecration of the Great Pyramid of Tenochtitlan. This was equivalent to 1 death every 4.3 seconds. 20. There is evidence that the Aztecs ate human flesh in some rituals. Some historians believe that cannibalism was disguised as a sacred sacrifice because the Aztecs did not have enough meat in their diet. Eating human flesh could serve them to reduce such a protein deficiency. 21. Since the beginning of the European colonization, the great majority of the Aztecs did not die in battles against the Christians, but by the diseases brought from Europe. 22. Approximately 250,000 people died in the final battle for Tenochtitlan. 23. The help of local enemies of the Aztecs was vital for the Spaniards in order to be able to colonize the region. Years and years accumulating enemies in the area had a high cost for the Aztecs. 24. Moctezuma II, Emperor of the Aztecs, believed that the Castilian conqueror Hernán Cortés was the god Quetzalcoatl. As a result of this belief, Moctezuma gave Hernán Cortés multiple presents and fulfilled his wishes. The Aztecs, seeing the complicity of the emperor with those who had come to their land killing, looting, and imposing the Christianity, rebelled against Moctezuma and they killed him with stones. 25. Cuauhtémoc, Aztec Emperor and nephew of Moctezuma II, unsuccessfully tried to defend Tenochtitlan against the invaders. Once he failed in his mission, he stood in front of Hernán Cortés, he pointed to the Spaniard's daga, and finally he asked the conqueror to kill him with heat. The Spanish refused to do so, and instead they tortured the emperor during a long time. They wanted him to reveal the location of an important Aztec treasure, but Cuauhtémoc refused to reveal such secret. After a long time being tortured, he ended being hanged by the Spanish colonizers. 26. Although the Aztec Empire disappeared, they left us an important linguistic legacy. Current words such as avocado, guacamole, or chocolate derive from Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. This is all for today. We wait for you in the next video. 23 Curiosities about Napoleon Bonaparte.